This is a production of Cornell University.
Good morning, everybody. It's great to be here and to lead off these lightning talks. And I'm really going to try to do this without going through the whole thing. So I want to just share, I've been working on reduced tillage systems for vegetables for several years and focus in on both conventional and organic systems that are suitable for vegetable crops and large and small. And so when we look at these systems and evaluate them, we are including many of the goals that we've already heard about through other people's presentations. I just want to highlight a couple of them that are important to us. Climate resilience, of course, is important. Our vegetable crops aren't as vigorous necessarily in the early part of the season as some of our agronomic crops, so we have to have really suitable seed bed. So creating systems that allow for deeper rooting of crops so that they can acquire soil and nutrients from deeper in the soil is one of our driving factors for these reduced till systems. As well as to improve infiltration of water so we can capture and retain that water. A year like this is a reminder of why we have to be doing that. Another area, so from the environmental side, there's many ways that we try to look at these systems. And again, all of those in line with the soil health goals that we've talked about already. In terms of the crop productivity, we want our vegetable crops have to be meeting timely harvest dates. And so creating an environment for rapid crop establishment and growth are really critical. But an area that we focus in on quite a bit is on the improvement in not just soil health, but farmer quality of life. And we think about labor use and labor efficiency in that. How quickly can some of those early season tasks be completed to allow that producer or manager to actually get to other really important tasks to be timely in the establishment of crops. And then another major challenge that we face with reducing tillage in vegetable crops is weed management. So that tends to be a focus of our work. But we view reduced tillage in a systems context. And what we know is that when we can stack these different practices and layer them, different soil health practices, that there's an additive benefit. And so reducing tillage or cover cropping by themselves will improve soil health, but when we layer that and integrate those together and add different rotations and think about other kinds of amendments, we will achieve our soil health goals more quickly. So how do we do that? And therein lies the rub with vegetable crops, because given their sensitivity to establishment conditions and soil conditions, trying to optimize cover crop growth and a lot of residue on the soil surface is a direct sort of competition and contradiction to the conditions we tend to prefer for vegetables. So our growers very often are growing cover crops, protecting the soil over the winter, but killing them early. And so we don't get the benefit of the biomass, the carbon additions to soil. So what are novel systems? What are new approaches, new equipment that can help us manage that residue more effectively or improve the way that we establish our crops in that kind of residue? What are the weed control strategies, both chemical and non-chemical, through cultivation that can help us achieve that? We also know that you have to be mindful in the case of vegetables, particularly of the diversity of scale and the diversity of crop products. And so we've worked on systems that use equipment-based approaches that are large scale, using an example like the zone till unit here, the zone builder unit. And we can test that, but then we also have to think about for smaller farms, those that can't invest in that type of equipment, who don't necessarily have that kind of horsepower to pull that equipment on their farm, what's a suitable approach? And so we use a reduced tillage strategy that looks at multiple approaches. And one example in some of our work with organic farming that we've been doing recently is really trying to optimize a no-till system for very small scale. And we found that using these types of impermeable tarps, that we can actually prepare a soil bed in the fall and then use cover cropping or other sorts of soil mulches and then tarp them in the spring. And it creates a beautiful condition. It warms the soil and allows us to actually have a no-till system that can be continued over multiple years. So how do we innovate and continuously try to integrate practices over time? We've demonstrated that we can grow vegetables in a reduced till system for numerous crops, but our real objective is how do we then help growers overcome their concerns about risk of these systems and adapt them. And so I'd like to be able to just leave you with a few ideas to sort of foster some thinking as we go forward in this day and thinking about this roadmap. I think that we need to really be continuing in vegetable crops to think about the ways that we do this stacking, integrating and maximizing the biomass and the benefits of cover crops in a reduced till system, and making sure that they're suitable to large and small farms. using regional type of soil health experiments, or having even on farms long-term soil health planting or fields allows us to create spaces of innovation and help growers think together about how do we innovate these systems. Creating incentives for access to some of the specialized equipment, as well as co-ops to allow smaller scale operators to actually be sharing equipment together. What are the ways that we can do that and make that work? And we still need other ways to actually include and remember and create opportunities for smaller scale growers to really be able to look at these systems and integrate them, because we know we can save a lot of labor and money and help improve profitability on those farms. Finally, I think that's interesting in New York is we have a really interesting, we have these incentives through something like the New York Grown and Certified that includes AEM Tier 2 type assessments. How do we elevate within that the soil health practices there and make them more visible? Because right now they're actually buried within the various parts of the tiers and in some of the worksheets, but create a more comprehensive vision statement around that in talking about our New York Grown and Certified. And similarly, I think as mentioned earlier by Pat, we have this benefit of really productive soils. How do we prioritize soil health practices and keep on helping think about our long-term food security, particularly for us and for me, and thinking about that with vegetable crops. Bam.
This has been a production of Cornell University, on the web at cornell.edu.